All right, welcome to day 2 of 5th grade Reds, week 3. All right, so today, not sure why I wrote that twice. Today we're going to go over yesterday's exit ticket, day 1's exit ticket, which was identifying which fraction is larger, 4/7, 1/2. So you started off, hopefully, finding the common denominator of 14. Then you found the equivalent fractions of 4/7 when the denominator is 14, and of 1/2 when the denominator is 14. 7 times what number gave you 14? 2. Which 4 times 2 gives you 8. And then 2 times what number gives you 14? 7. 1 times 7 gives you 7. So then you get 7 14ths compared to 8 14ths. Which fraction is bigger? The 8 14ths. Well, what does 8 14ths stand for again? Right? Batman stands for Bruce Wayne. 4/7. So therefore, 4/7 is larger than 1/2. Another trick of the trade of knowing this would be saying, okay, 1/2 is obviously 1/2, right? 1 is 1/2 of 2. What's 1/2 of 7? Less than 4. 4 is more than 1/2 of 7, which then tells you 4/7 has to be larger than 1/2, which is also tells you which fraction is larger. Okay, today we are going to add fractions, okay, with different, unlike denominators. So we're taking it at the next level, okay? So step 1 we are familiar with, you find the common denominator. Step 2 we're familiar with by finding equivalent fractions. Now we just take those new fractions, the new equivalent fractions, and put them together for step 3. So first, let's start with step 1, 3 and 9. All right, what is your common denominator between 3 and 9? Well, the quickest, smallest, least common denominator, as they call it, is 9. It took me 3 times to get there. It's good to know. So I don't even need to change this 1/9 at all. I can just keep it. So all I have to do is change 1/3. So 1/3 will become what ninths? 3. How many times does it take me to get to 9? 3 times. So 3 times 3 equals 9. And 1 times 3 equals 3. So I get 3/9. So now I have 3/9 and I have 1/9 because that 1/9 never changed. Okay. So now I'm going to do my third step, which is add them together. 3/9 plus 1/9, which equals 4/9. That is my answer. So 1/3 plus 1/9 equals 4/9. The biggest thing you got to remember here is you can't add fractions with different denominators. The most common mistake that I see, and across the board, most math teachers see at this level, is students trying to add fractions that have different denominators. You can't do it. You just can't. They have to be the same. So you have to get them to be the same. Okay? So let's have you guys do one here, 1/2 plus 1/3. Find the common denominator. So remember the steps. I'll make them visible. Find common denominator. Find equivalent fractions. Add those new fractions. Go ahead, hit the pause button now to solve. Okay, so now I have a 1/2. I found a common denominator of 6. So I'm going to change the 1/2 into a fraction that has a denominator of 6. Well, how many times did it take me to get from 2 to 6? 3 times. So I times the 1 by 3 to get 3/6. That's one of the fractions I'll be adding down here for my third step. Then I have to change 1/3 into a fraction with a denominator of 6. How many times does it take me to get from 3 to 6? 2. 2 times. 1 times 2 gives you 2. So now I'm going to be adding that 2 6 to the 3 6. And I'll get my solution of 3 plus 2 equals 5. Don't add the denominators. Don't do it. The denominator stays the same. 5 6. That's the second most common mistake. Students at number 1 trying to add when the denominators are different. And number 2 is students trying to add the denominators. No. You find a common denominator, but you don't add them. Same thing when we're subtracting, which we'll be doing next week. You find a common denominator and you don't subtract them. All right, let's move on to number 3. 3/8 plus 1/4. Make it easier on yourself. Find the common denominator that's the smallest between the two. Go ahead and do that now to solve. Okay, so we have 3/8 equaling 3/8 because the denominator never has to change. 8 is a multiple of 4, so I don't need to change my 3/8. So I showed your timesing 3 times 1 and 8 times 1 because some people just feel like they need to put something down here, or they might forget it. So you can just show it by timesing it by 1. 1 times anything is anything. So, changing the 1/4 though into a denominator of 8. Took me 2 times to get there, as you can see up there. So 4 times 2 and 1 times 2. You get 2/8. Now I'm going to add 3/8 and 2/8. Don't add the denominators. Don't do it. You only, when you find your common denominator, then you just add the numerators. The denominator stays the same. 3 plus 2 equals 5. 5/8 being your answer. Let's move on to number 4 now. 3/5 plus 1/4. Find the common denominator. Find the equivalent fractions. Add them. But don't add the denominators. Go ahead, hit the pause button to do that now. So before we go over the answer and get to the answer, the cool thing about you, number 1, being here, and number 2, solving for the common denominators, is you're just going to get so good at it, more so than the other students in moving into 6th grade, that you'll start just seeing 5 and 4 and say, oh yeah, that's common denominator is 20. Because you've taken the time to write it out so much this year. And then you're having this extra practice over the summer to get you there, prepare you for 6th grade. That you're just going to, if maybe it's already happened sometimes for you, maybe you just look at 8 and 4 and say, oh yeah, common denominator is 8. So there will be that time where it just clicks, where you start to see denominators and you start to say, oh yeah, I don't need to do all this work. I know it's 20 for 5 and 4. I'm good to go. So you can skip that step. It'll just be there because you've been doing it by hand so much. Okay? Okay, so we found the common denominator to be 20. I found the equivalent fractions to be 12/20 and 5/20. I'm going to add 12/20 plus 5/20. Don't add the denominator. So 12 plus 5 equals 17. Stick with the same denominator. You end up getting 17/20 as your answer here. Okay, so with that being said, we are done with day 2s of week 3, adding unlike denominators. I'd like you to go ahead, go to your exit ticket for today, complete it in the Google form, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.